What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Healed podcast. I am your host, Miss Amber Kinney, and today we have the lovely Quilla Jones. Shaquilla, excuse me. Let me get it right. This lovely lady is our therapist friend. She is an actual therapist. So we're going to ask her some questions. We're going to talk to her about mental health. It's the therapy for me, sis. It's the
yes, honey.
Listen, how are you doing, first of all?
I am doing well. I am super excited to be here. And thank you so much for having me as your guest. I am super excited. Like you said, yes, I'm a real therapist, but I always got the therapist friend title too. So, but I'm excited. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Life.
Girl, honey, it's all in the episode topic, honey. It's the therapy for me, honey.
Okay, we're gonna delve into all of that. Shout out to all of our listeners real quick. If you're not following us on Instagram, go ahead and hit that follow button. The Healed podcast.
Make sure y'all follow.
Yes, absolutely. So let's jump into what we're talking about today. Let us not delay any further. Let's talk about what we're talking about, honey. It's the therapy for me. So, Miss Quilla, as a therapist, what do you think is the biggest concern regarding mental health today?
I actually get that question more often than I want to admit.
I can understand.
But one of the biggest concerns right now that I see in the mental health field is affordability. Yes, COVID has came through and definitely gave us some more accessibility, but there is still a huge issue with affordability of therapy.
Talk about it.
One example, that I am recalled of very quickly when we talk about concerns in mental health is, for say, a company has, just giving y'all a little insight of how these things go when you call and ask a therapist, hey, are you taking my insurance, etc. When you're going with some of these big agencies, they are contracted with some of your insurance companies. So for example, let's just say Insurance A, they have a contract with Insurance A, and their contract is to charge $160 for that individual therapy session. Well, that agency may have an out-of-pocket fee of $60, but what are they going to charge you? They're going to charge $160. So when we talk about affordability, even though it may be cheaper for me to see you out of pocket, I'm still going to charge you that good old what may be. I see that so very often in the seeking services of mental health. And when I say it floors me, and then, people sit back and say, well, people have insurance, they should be able to go get mental health services. It is not as simple, because even as a therapist, if you were telling me I have to pay $160 or $120 every week to see my therapist, I can't afford that. Like, that's $500 coming out of my check each month for mental health services. I can't afford that, even as a therapist myself. Yes, that's a lot. Definitely a lot. So my biggest concern that I see often all the time is just the affordability of mental health services, whether that be inpatient, outpatient, whatever that may be.
Yes, absolutely. So listen, we don't talk about enough how therapy is a luxury. Being able to go to see a therapist. So many of us could benefit from therapy, but not everybody can afford that luxury. People got kids.
Exactly.
People got to keep their lights on. People got to
bills.
So imagine having to decide between paying $160 to go see your therapist every week and keeping groceries in your house.
I'm going with groceries.
We're going with groceries. Like,
we're going with groceries.
And
hope I don't have a mental breakdown this week. Like,
right, exactly.
We're going with groceries.
Store. Having a mental
in the grocery store.
In the grocery store.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I think like you said, the mental health is a luxury, and it's sad that it's coming to a point where this luxury is going to be a mandatory situation. The way that we are experiencing society right now, the way that we are all in the middle of a pandemic, this luxury is going to be mandatory for people, like mandatory. So then, that's a whole nother rabbit hole I can jump down about what happens when people aren't granted or have the accessibility of what they need. And that mental health is going to become very necessary.
Yeah. Those therapy is a necessity already. So, I know how I have been experiencing the pandemic. I can only talk for myself, and, other people have experienced this pandemic as well,
Yes.
So it's overall has had quite a mental toll on us, because you essentially have just been forced to sit with yourself. We've been inside.
That
isolation. So, where you could before, run to the store. This was very early on, where you could run to the store to kind of avoid what you were thinking about. You had to sit with yourself in this thing right here. And, a lot of people are uncovering things about themselves that they didn't even realize was going on. But when you get in that quiet place, honey.
And I think you hit home very much to, we were able to go to the grocery store, but let's think about, like you said, early pandemic time, people were able to go to the bar and grab a drink to drink away my issues, drink away my sorrows. And again, we were forced to sit in that isolation, forced to sit in that moment of whatever I have going on, whether that be mental health or whether that even be, because there was also domestic violence spikes during COVID-19. So that whether that be a whole nother topic of, the abuse that they're having to sit in, like, COVID-19, the pandemic, it has done a huge, like, just,
it's uncovered a lot of stuff. Yeah,
exactly, to everyone's mental health, even us as therapists. And
girl,
it's done a huge thing to all of our mental health.
I can only imagine, like, what you as a therapist have gone through in this pandemic, honey. Like, what has it been like for you on the other side of things? Like, you are the service provider. What has it been like for you?
Speaking from my personal experience, that's all I can speak from, is my experience as a therapist. It has been hard. Hard in so many ways. One of the biggest challenges that I face is pre-COVID. Guess what I did? I got up in the morning, I went to work, I left the house, I came back home, disconnect. Now my office is in my home. So there's no disconnect. I wake up, I go to my desk, and I'm right there with my therapist.
Right.
I'm still here with my desk. Like, there's no, in the beginning, I could say I've gotten better at this now, but there was difficulty in learning how to disconnect because I'm not walking out the door and coming back in. Right. I'm now in it 24/7, regardless of if it's 9 a.m. in the morning or 7 p.m. at night. I'm having to be there the entire time as a therapist. Like, there's no switch off and on as it was when we were able to go to the office. So that's been one of the biggest challenges, is that disconnect piece. Another one of the challenges is just also me experiencing the pandemic as a personal, like, as a human.
Yeah.
So taking off my therapist hat, and then me having to experience what the pandemic looks like for me. So having that challenge of, okay, I'm worried also about my health, but I also got to be worried about my clients' health. I got to be worried about their mental health. Okay, I'm also worried about my mental health. Okay, I got to be worried about my clients' mental health. again, that disconnect piece became so incredibly important during the pandemic.
Right.
I also, go
Uh-huh.
ahead.
So I was going to ask, like, so how do you care for yourself as a therapist? Like, what does your self-care routine look like?
Okay, so I'm glad self-care, that I'm gonna say self-care in quotations, because it's now become this phenomenon of, oh my
Yeah.
God, self-care, self-care, self-care. I love self-care, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But we have put these parameters on what self-care should be. Self-care is going to
Mm-hmm.
get my nails done. Self-care is going to get my hair done. Self-care is so much more than that.
Yes.
Self-care is also healing.
Mm-hmm.
Self-care is also understanding I need to go to sleep before
Yes.
2 o'clock the next morning so that I can be well rested and my body is cared for. Not
Yeah.
just, I go get my nails done. I take bubble baths on Sunday. Yes,
Mhm.
that is also self-care. Don't get me wrong at
Yeah.
all. Don't get me wrong at all. But it's so much more than just that fantasize of the monetary of what I do equals my self-care, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
So self-care to me, like I play tennis. So I have to do something outside. Nature is where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
So I am making sure I'm heating the courts in the warm months. Now it's getting cold. So, girl, I don't do a lot of the cold weather like that. But I'm at the point to where I'm making sure I'm getting outside, making sure that I am actively engaging my brain in something else. So
Yes.
engaging my brain in something else that's intellectual. So tennis, anybody knows anything about tennis, it takes a little strategic planning to know how to hit the ball here, hit it to get it to this position across the court, getting it over
Mm-hmm.
the net, all that good stuff. So something that engages my brain in a totally different pattern versus
Absolutely.
the therapist brain that has to turn on. So for me, I do a lot of that physical activity, making sure that I'm getting in, a walk in the morning, getting in some type of personal reflection to my own life, making sure I'm engaging with my friends, making sure I'm engaging with family. All
Yeah.
of that for me is self-care outside. Like, I don't even look at getting my hair and my nails done anymore as self-care. Like, that's a necessity now.
That's a
Like, I gotta look
necessity.
good.
Exactly.
So, right, it's becoming a necessity now. So making sure that I am just engaging in whatever feels good for me
Mm-hmm.
is what self-care is about when
Yeah.
I talk about self-care.
And you just make such good points about self-care, because I do feel like we have commodified self-care.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
where it's like, I have to, the thing that kind of strikes me as like a self-love coach, the
Mm-hmm.
thing that strikes me, honey, is when people be feeling like they have to schedule in self-care. But
Mm-hmm.
then it
Yeah.
almost like when you work, and that's your thing, like you are a workaholic,
Yeah.
that's where you get your high. It's almost like a chore to schedule
Mm-hmm.
in self-care.
Exactly.
And so
Exactly.
that's why I think it's so dangerous that we just kind of we box in what can be considered self-care. Like you were saying, there are so many things that can fall under that category. Going on your
Like going to
walk,
sleep.
going to sleep. Yes, this hustle culture got people like all out of whack.
Yeah.
And now
Yeah.
we're learning now that hustle culture is not the wave, like at all, because it's there are different levels of productivity. So I think it's so
Yeah.
interesting that you made that point, because that's so true. That's so
Mm-hmm.
true, how we like automatically will think about self-care in a certain way and not realize that doing everyday things that feel good to your body is self-care.
But
Washing
it's
your
all,
dishes is self-care.
yes.
Your house is self-care. Like that's
Yes,
self-care.
yes, it is. And we, like you said, we put a box around that self-care, but we also have to mentally change our cognition, which
Mm-hmm.
therapists know all about,
Yeah.
to what is self-care for you.
Right.
Like, you got to change that mindset, because a lot of
Uh-huh.
people, we have, like you said, grew up in that, I won't say grow up, but we come to that era where self-care is getting my nails, but all that stuff. You're
Mm-hmm.
scheduling that time, like all of that. But change your mindset. I'm washing my dishes today, and this is going to be how I self-care for myself. because I didn't
Yes.
allow my house to look like blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Or I'm making up my bed every day this week, okay?
Uh-huh.
So that I can have a fresh start. That's
Exactly.
also self-care. Like, it doesn't have to be this, I go on $5,000 trips. Like, that doesn't have to be
No,
self-care.
that's
Like,
not the only type of self-care. Like making sure your house is clean makes you
right.
feel good. Like it's what
Yes.
makes you feel good. That
Yes.
could be
Self-care.
considered
What's caring
self-care.
for yourself?
Yes,
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
exactly what it is. Caring for oneself. And
Yes.
I love that you said that. So it's Quilla, it sounds like you have like some different complex views as a therapist. So like what is your ultimate goal as a Black woman therapist in America?
honey. As it's so interesting you frame it as a Black woman therapist,
Yes,
because
ma'am.
I mean, to keep it real with your listeners, honey, I
Uh-huh.
just look at myself as a therapist, but I have
Yeah.
to understand that when I show up for my clients, I am a
Mhm.
Black woman therapist.
Yes, ma'am.
And especially for my clients who are also Black, like they're like, oh, you, like
The
you help me get
representation matters.
exactly, representation matters. So it's so interesting that you frame it that way, because I never think of myself that way at all, but that's exactly what I am. Anyways, um so to the question, what keeps me going as a therapist, my goal as a therapist, I have always been in the helping profession since I was like 14, 15. And I say that because I started a nonprofit in high school for
Uh-huh.
helping other young girls, like first generation college students, girls who are also experiencing teenage pregnancy. I've always helped. Like, I've always just been there. So my goal, I've always said, if I have one person, one kid, one adult, one
Mhm.
senior, like, geriatric patient, any person like that, to say, because of you, Miss Jones, because of you, Quilla, my
Mhm.
life changed for the better. That's all I want. Like, I will be able to leave this earth a very successful, fulfilled human being if I just have
Yes.
one person to say, because of you, my life turned out differently. Because of you, I was able to go down another path. Because of you, I got the support that I needed to do A, B, C, D, and E that I never thought I could do.
Mhm.
That
And
is
have you had that experience so far?
good question. So I get experiences very close to it.
Wow.
Um, and honestly, sometimes I get experiences that are that, but I don't believe it.
Oh, wow.
And I'm gonna tell you that because I still don't. Again, like, I don't see myself as like this therapist person. Like,
You
I'm
just see
just
yourself as
Quilla.
Quilla.
I'm just Quilla. Look, I'm gonna shout out real quick. I'm just Quilla from Goldsboro. Like,
Hey, shout out Goldsboro.
like, I don't see myself as. I've had some of my mentees come back and say, you don't know how much you have inspired me. You don't know how much you
Mhm.
pushed me to that next level. But I still don't believe it. I be like, me?
That's such a
You just
rewarding
kidding. Like,
feeling.
you just kidding. Like, not me. Like, not me
You,
at all.
sis, you.
So I've never been asked that question. So sitting back and sitting in that, I'm like, am I like, is that goal needing to be checked? Like, I don't know. Like, I've never been asked that question, and I've never thought about it until just now. So, like, I'm over here almost in tears. Like, I've had moments like that. I've had
Yeah.
those conversations. So, do I need to check that box,
I
girlfriend?
think
Like,
you need to
sis,
check that box, sis.
check that.
I think that's what needs to happen. By the end of this interview, you need to check that box. Because you've also inspired me. Like you never know
Oh,
you are inspiring. There are so many people that you come in contact with, and you could do one little thing.
yep,
And then you have changed the trajectory of their entire week, the trajectory
exactly.
of their entire day. So, honey, please take the compliment. Let's
I
get
love
that
you.
imposter syndrome up out of here.
Honey, that's a whole nother. We're gonna have to. That's a whole nother topic podcast.
We're gonna have to circle
whole
back
lot.
one day about imposter syndrome because she need to pack her bags. Like,
honey, because it's too late. It's too late in the game for that. Now we need to be our authentic selves. We are not answering to anybody but our self. That's a whole nother episode.
Okay, listen. Okay, listen. Let's talk about TikTok.
Okay, TikTok. Okay.
You know, that's where I live.
That's where you flourish. I love to see Miss Amber Kenny Lowe on TikTok. Honey.
I appreciate you, sis.
You're welcome.
You. For those of you that don't know, Quilla is also my line sister. So
yeah,
we speak to each other as if we are talking to our line sister, because we are.
Because I am.
And so listen, Queen, let's talk about TikTok.
Okay, we can talk a little bit about TikTok. Let's do it.
TikTok now is filled with like an abundance of knowledge. Like,
yes, it is.
It is overflowing with information.
Yes.
And part of the information that is overflowing is therapists who have taken their practice and they've begun to give free therapeutic information on TikTok. Now, I personally have benefited from a lot of it, but I've also become overwhelmed by a lot of it too.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So how do you feel about therapists providing those types of services on TikTok? And then the second part of that question is, do you feel like there's an influx of like people self-diagnosing mental illnesses or things of the like from listening to their favorite TikTok therapists?
Good question. I mean, we cannot talk about anything in this day and age without bringing in social media. Like, we cannot discuss one thing without understanding the influence of TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of that. The new Discord that my kids are teaching me about. Like, you know, we cannot talk about anything without talking about social media. So I like TikTok. You know, it's my little self-care that I do at night. I scroll,
get lost.
Try to learn the little dances, honey. Like, I be trying. Okay. So I do see TikTok being so providing of information, whether that be mental health services, whether that be medical information. Like, I've seen like some stuff up there. I'm like, okay, let me try this detox, honey. At the same time, though, I feel as though we have to be cautious. And when you say, I'm gonna answer the second part of the question first.
Okay.
So when you talk about how do I feel about the, you know, self-diagnosing of mental health illnesses, to be completely honest and to be very transparent with your listeners, I am seeing an influx in that.
Wow.
I have my clients that come to me and say, Miss Jones, you know, I think I have borderline personality disorder. And y'all know, I'm a real therapist. Like, you know, I'm definitely a very clinical therapist. Don't get me wrong, but y'all in the back of my head, I be thinking like, girl, you are okay. You are perfectly fine, sis. Like, we are good. We are making progress on your goals. Like, again, don't allow that. Backtrack. I'm gonna back up.
Okay.
I don't want it to be mistaken that I do not hear out my clients, because I do hear my clients. And as a therapist, any therapist listening, they also know we are assessing our clients continuously. Every word they say, every comment they make, every body language in our sessions, we are continuously assessing. So if I feel like my client does have borderline personality disorder, I'm assessing for that. I probably picked that up before my client picked that up.
Right.
So in that sense, yes, I will validate my client, acknowledge my client, all of that. But on the flip side, I do feel like a lot of this, some of these self-diagnosis situations with mental health is becoming influx. Like I'm seeing a lot of that.
Yeah.
So, and my clients will reference and say, well, I saw on TikTok, blah, 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 or I saw on Instagram,
And
I
I
saw
relate to these two things that I saw.
Exactly. And
Either
I'm
they
like,
got
baby girl,
narcissistic
boy,
personality disorder,
honey. So
BPD, you name it.
all of that, MDD, all of the acronyms.
Yeah.
They throw it out at me. BP, all of it.
And let me be clear, we're not making a mockery of any of these
not at all.
cluster B personality types. We're not making a mockery of any of these mental illnesses.
Not at all.
We're more so talking specifically about people who have self-diagnosed. Exactly. And they are now feeling anxiety surrounding these diagnoses.
Exactly.
And they don't fully understand what it takes to be diagnosed with something like that.
Exactly. And we have all done it. I've done it. Y'all know, especially with COVID. Y'all know we quickly get our chest start hurting, we get a little cough because of our sinuses. Girl, I pick up my phone quickly, like, do I have COVID?
Okay.
Like, we have all done that part. But just like Miss Amber stated, if you feel as though you are experiencing any type of mental health symptoms, any type of mental health issues, come to the professional. So when my clients do come to me with like, hey, I think I'm experiencing blah, 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 I'm gonna tell y'all, I'm a different kind of therapist and my clients love it. I will literally pull out my DSM-5 and I will walk with them through, like, do you have this? Because I want my clients to understand the difference between that. I don't even know if there's words for that, but the difference between that feeling of I see so much of this, I'm now conforming to it. Ooh. Versus is this something that I really have? Or is this something that I'm really experiencing? But I see so much of overload of information on TikTok of this. And now I believe I have this.
Yes, girl, it's every other video.
And algorithm on TikTok is on, honey. It's on flicky. You click one button and I'm telling you, I'm on something totally different. But I want people to, again, be cautious in all of this social media.
I agree.
And understand there's pros and cons to everything. There's pros and cons to, looking at TV. It's pros and cons to scrolling TikTok. True. Like I want people to be cautious and be not as so quick to self-diagnose. Yeah. Because guess what? We are all struggling at this moment in this pandemic. We are all going through things. I know you guys see memes and TikToks and it says everybody's going through something, which is completely correct. So just because I have a couple of days where I don't feel like getting out of the bed, don't be so quick to diagnose yourself with major depression. Yeah. Don't be so quick to do that. Yeah. I tell my clients all the time, give yourself grace.
Yes. Give yourself a break.
Give yourself grace.
Cut a break. Yep.
That you work 40 hours a week in the midst of a pandemic.
That's a lot in and of itself. Like the world is crumbling around us as we know it.
And that's light. Like, I don't even know anybody who's just going to work and coming home in the midst of a pandemic right now. We all have so much more going on. So give yourself grace. Don't be so quick to self-diagnose because you relate to two of 18 criteria for major depressive disorder. Give yourself grace and understand that what you are experiencing right now, you've never experienced. Because I only know a couple of people. I don't even know a couple of people. I'm not even going to tell your listeners that lie. I don't know anybody personally that has been through a pandemic such as COVID that we've experienced right now. I don't know anybody personally. I know that there's some older generation people who have experienced some other things, because they've graciously lived that long. But most of your listeners at this moment, the pandemic is probably the closest we've probably seen to something like the Black Plague. Like, Like that's where we are.
Yeah.
So give yourself grace to know that you are experiencing something that you have never experienced.
Yeah.
We have never experienced what this is. So hopping back to the other question, the other part to the question, I love the TikTok mental health therapist. I don't have one that I favorite because I'm not an avid TikToker, honestly, sis. I only watch TikTok for you, and I'm just gonna keep it
I appreciate you.
I only watch TikTok for you and your acting skills and all that kind of stuff. That's what takes me to TikTok. So I don't have a preferred. I wish I had a preferred therapist that I could say, y'all, I stand by this therapist TikTok. But I don't, because I don't frequent, TikTok as often. So, but I definitely do think there's some good in what TikTok is being able to provide people when it comes to mental health.
Yeah.
But again, do your research. There's free resources, so do that research. Be able to just fact check it. Just fact check it a little bit. Make sure you've at least heard it 2 or 3 times on different therapists. Like different therapist TikToks. Don't just go on Facebook like
right.
this. Fact check it a little bit. So, yeah,
Quilla said, "Don't just take it and run, baby. Don't
don't do that.
Don't just
if we
take
took
it and run." But that's actually a perfect segue into my next question for you.
What you got?
What is your best advice for someone who cannot afford therapy right now, but they still want to begin their healing process?
That's great. And whoever that is that you're talking to, because I know you're talking to somebody in that specific moment. First off, the fact that you're even seeking healing for whatever you are experiencing.
Yeah.
Homie, girlfriend, brother, sis, like do that. Like, I appreciate you for even getting to that step to even say, okay, I want to move forward. I want to grow. I want to heal, because it takes eons for people to even get to that step to say, I want to start on a healing journey, because that's uncomfortable. That's really uncomfortable.
You got to confront some stuff with that, baby.
Yeah, you do. So whoever that is, homie, brother, sis, cousin, whoever that is, I just want to thank you for loving yourself in that way.
Right.
So resources. So I'll give a couple of resources. There's a lot of free apps and things that I recommend my clients, because I can't be there with them 24/7. But there's a lot of apps that I would recommend. Number one, I would definitely recommend Talkspace to people.
Okay.
That's probably one of the common ones that people see in regard to seeking services and may not being able to afford it. There's also one book that I recommend to a lot of my clients that are dealing with complex trauma, because that's a little something that not just an app can handle. So that book that I normally give to some of my clients who are dealing more with some additional traumas is called Taming Your Gremlin by Rick Carson.
I love
and
that.
It's a workbook.
Taming Your Gremlin.
It's a workbook, because I got to be able to write. I have gone through this workbook myself. It gives you a lot of techniques about dealing with some of the monsters that you may have in your mind, giving you a lot of information about emotional balance. Like it's a very great interactive book that you can get. I think the book is maybe like $10 on Amazon.
Not bad at all.
Like not bad at all. $10 on Amazon. Definitely for sure. There's again a plethora of information, but Taming Your Gremlin and then Talkspace will be two of the ones that I recommend a lot to my clients. But there's also so many other resources. There's so many apps. I think one is called Real, like REAL, like Real. Also some other apps can be, let's see, Sober is a good app for anybody who is experiencing any self-injurious behaviors and you're trying to, work on keeping track of that. It's called Sober. Also do a little bit of research of some therapists who are taking pro bono clients. There are therapists out there that will do pro bono. I'm not sure how frequent it is in North Carolina. I'm just telling y'all the truth. I don't know. But definitely do a little bit of research on some pro bono therapists, and also some support groups. Most support groups are free. Find you a support group. A lot of them are virtual right now. You don't even have to leave your house. So find you a support group as well that you can get yourself engaged in, and that's free, convenience of your home, whatever. So those are going to be my resources for anybody who's able to who wants to start on that healing process but can't afford the $30 a week, $60 a week, $130 a week in therapy for sure.
Okay. Those are all amazing resources. And I appreciate you sharing those low cost options or no cost options. I know that Therapy for Black Girls has a, what is it called? Not a catalog, but like they have a whole catalog of Black female therapists.
Yes, I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah. So sometimes, and also there's blackgirltherapy.com. I want to say, I'll put these in the link in our bio on Instagram. On blacktherapy.com, you can actually choose an option for therapists who have a sliding scale. So, Quilla, can you talk about like some of the frequently asked questions for when you are going to seek a therapist? Kind of like, sliding scales, what a sliding scale is, what questions to ask a therapist, because you kind of have to interview your therapist before you start. It's a good idea to interview. So could you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes, I recommend anybody interview their therapist. Like, I don't care if you got insurance. I don't care if you can pay $1,000 a week. Interview your therapist. Make sure you and your therapist match. Make sure y'all vibe. Make sure your therapist is credentialed in what you want. Make sure your therapist knows what she's talking about. Fact check your therapist. Like, I recommend, fact check me, girl. If you feel some type of way, fact check me. So some of the questions that I get asked, and some of the questions I also recommend people ask your therapist, even if you don't even know what your therapist is saying, but ask your therapist, what type of evidence-based practice does your therapist use? Number one, you don't want your therapist just talking out the side of her neck, giving you the advice that she got from her mama, that her mama got from her grandma. Y'all, let's be real. It's 2021. We don't want that. We healing. We trying to heal for real. We ain't trying to dig our holes deeper. So
that's a fact.
Ask your therapist, what type of evidence-based practices are they using? Because if they're able to tell you this, you can Google that evidence-based practice and say, okay, this is what my therapist will be teaching me on. And that evidence-based practice will be what your therapist is guiding the framework of you all session. So it won't just be like she talking out the side of her neck, or he talking out the side, or they. Let me be real correct. Or they are talking out the side of their neck. So that's definitely number one. Number two, don't be afraid to ask your therapist personal questions like, what do you do for self-care? I don't want my therapist showing up for me all ragged, being completely honest, y'all. I don't want my therapist coming to me and her problems are weighing heavier than what I'm trying to say the night before. Ask your therapist what kind of self-care practices are they taking in. Ask them that. I promise you, your therapist will be like, okay, all right, I see you. Your therapist will definitely do that. The third thing that I recommend that you ask your therapist or speak to your therapist about is talk to your therapist again about sliding scales. Talk to your therapist again about cost and what kind of resources they have if you're not able to financially provide or financially cover your therapy sessions. Being completely honest, y'all, you may be able to handle that $40 one week, but the next week that $40 may be what you need for gas.
In and out.
That $40 may be exactly. Like, you never know. Being completely honest, that $40 could go to your tire because you just got a flat yesterday. Like, that is so, that comes at the most inconvenienced time. But ask your therapist about their financial options. Do they have any situations where, if I'm not able to pay that session, what do I have? What are my options? And then they'll be able to inform you all about, sliding scales. There's a new thing called pay bill, I think, which is another like a form of sliding scale. Don't quote me on that, y'all, at all. But definitely, those would be my 3 questions. I would first, if you don't have anything that you need to ask your therapist those 3 questions. Now, also, don't be afraid to be personal with your therapist. And I know a lot of therapists may kind of give me a side eye with that. But when I'm interviewing a therapist, I also want to know that they're human. I also want to know that they are a person.
Yeah.
And that they actually are able to care.
Nobody wants a therapist who sees you as a number.
Exactly. And a lot of
a paycheck.
Exactly. And a lot of therapists get like that, y'all. I'm just going to be completely honest. Wow. So don't be afraid to ask your therapist personal questions so that you know that they're human and they care about what they actually do. And they're just not here to count you as a client number 52 for the week. Okay. And I also had another thought that I wanted to pull into that, but it slipped my mind. As a Black woman, I make sure I ask my therapist, because I do have a therapist. Shout out to my therapist that's out there. Hey girl, hey. So I do have a therapist, and I always make sure I ask my therapist, what's your stand on white supremacy? What's your stand on things that are dealing right now with our Black culture?
Talk about
it. What's your stand on things that are dealing with police brutality? What's your thing on mental health right now? Like, I want to know what my therapist thinks, because girl, if we left and right, we're not gonna mesh well. And I don't know if you can help me on my journey of food. Like that's just that. And even if you're a Black woman and you have a white therapist, I'm gonna take it hard being able to talk about things like that, because I make sure that when we have situations like that in the media, I give all of my clients space to discuss that. I don't care if you're white, Black, purple, brown, yellow, whatever, because it all impacts us. So making sure that your therapist can hold space for you to be able to talk freely, no matter if you need to talk about, Black and brown skin that day. Make sure your therapist is competent in that nature to be able to discuss those things.
That's so important.
That's what I would interview my therapist with, if I was seeking a therapist and needed somebody, for sure.
Absolutely. And that's such valuable information that sometimes you can't find online. Like, sometimes it sounds better coming directly from, as the old folks might say, from the horse's mouth. It sounds, it sounds better. And it's more digestible when you hear someone actually speaking about that. But I do appreciate you sharing with the audience that in particular, because people do have so many questions about therapy, how to receive treatment, what to do, what to ask. And, a lot of people don't feel as comfortable asking everybody. So, that's why we created this safe space for, whole selves to be celebrated and not tolerated.
Yes, honey.
Speaking of being celebrated and not tolerated, how, Qui, do you celebrate yourself?
Y'all, I can't even front with you. Like, y'all, I struggle. How to celebrate myself. Now, I tell you what, I do have my nice, as if you talk to somebody young, my adult fun on the weekends. Yeah. So I do have my adult fun that I celebrate all my accomplishments with, whether my adult fun to be go grab a glass of wine, go grab a nice bourbon, whatever that may be, So I tend to make sure, and to keep it 100 with y'all, I tend to make sure that I celebrate myself by being wrapped around a supportive network.
Yes.
That they are going to see me and see when I need more than what I can even give myself. And honestly, y'all, that's how I celebrate myself, because if I can't function and they can pick up on that, I need that. I need for somebody to see me. And that's what my support system does. They see me when I can't even see myself. So
talk about it, sis.
Honey, I take that as celebration. because I'm able to see when I need to flip my switch. I'm able to see when I need to pick up a little bit of my self-care. I'm able to see when I need to change, move a little differently, and all of that. So that's honestly, I know it sounds probably like an oxymoron,
that is
but
so
that's
good.
how I
That's
celebrate
so good.
myself, to make sure that my support system is on my shoulders and I have people in my corner that I can trust, people in my corner I can be vulnerable and transparent with. Like that's where it's at.
Yeah. I
Sure.
completely agree. I completely agree. And that's part of what this show is about, is to show people that there are so many ways to celebrate yourself. And sometimes one of the best ways to celebrate yourself is to make sure that you have a supportive circle of people around you who will catch you if you fall. So that's so good. That's so good. And thank you for sharing that. Because somebody needed to hear that, sis.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Honey,
Somebody
because we
needed
got to be so intentional. We got to be so intentional about our support systems. Like,
precisely.
So intentional.
Absolutely. And I completely agree.
Keep that circle that you all have close, but make sure you got the right people in that circle.
Yes.
Make sure you got the right ones to support you, who will see you, who will validate you, who will acknowledge you, who you can feel vulnerable and transparent with. Because if you don't, y'all, it's a lonely world out here by yourself. We are not meant to flourish alone.
No, we're not.
We are not meant to flourish alone.
So
whether that means you have just one person, you're not alone. But making sure that you have that support system is where it's at, y'all. Like, that support system is what you need. That support system is how you get through when times are rough and you can't get out of the bed.
Yes.
You can't do what you need to do. You know?
And the journey to healing is already lonely enough. Like, having to confront yourself at every step of the way and form that accountability for how you showed up previously, but also understanding this is not how you want to show up anymore. So that journey can feel like extremely lonely, because not everybody, and you can talk about this for sure, not everybody is going to be happy for the fact that you are no longer maintaining, that paradigm that you once had. You're trying
what a tambourine.
To grow, right? You're trying to change your paradigm. And there were some people who were probably benefiting from you having the one paradigm. And so that's what I mean when I say this road can get very lonely when you start taking full accountability and ownership for how you show up in the world, and also how you allow people to show up in your life, baby. Like, that's
honey. I always, one of my main things I tell my clients is you teach people how to treat you.
Yeah.
Okay. And that may not be the easiest thing. Setting boundaries for yourself, telling people you can't treat me like this.
Yes.
Telling people and communicating with people that what you said hurt my feelings. Oh, y'all, people ain't gonna want to stick around for that.
Nope.
People ain't gonna want to see you heal. People ain't gonna want to see you healthy. People don't, because they, like, just like she said, they thrive off of you being in that negative space. Misery loves company. They thrive off of you being in that negative space. So to even begin to change how you think, to be able to change some of the way you move, people are going to be like, what? Oh, she acting funny. She bougie now. She done started going to therapy and she bougie now, honey. No, that's healing. That's growth. And if they want to stay in that space of not growing, let them.
That's on them.
Let them.
Misery don't like my company, baby. Misery don't like my company.
No.
I will have you brainwashed into achieving all your dreams, your goals, your aspirations, you believing in yourself, you loving yourself.
All of that.
Listen. Well, anyway, Miss Quilla, I am so grateful that you graced the Healed podcast, honey.
Oh my gosh.
You dropped so many gems today. And I just know there's someone listening right now who needed to hear exactly what you have to say. So
thank you.
Tell us where we can find you online.
Yeah.
Where can we find you? Where can we find your work? Where can somebody reach out to you if they want to become a client of yours? Give us a tea.
Awesome. All right. So y'all, I'm actually gonna, because y'all are Miss Amber Kenny Lowe's, my beautiful line sisters, listeners, y'all get real personal with me. Now, other people don't get this. So I'm actually going to share with y'all my personal email address. So you guys can contact me directly. If you have questions, if you want to know more about what to ask your therapist, if you need to know more resources because you can't afford therapy, do not hesitate to reach out to me. And I tell y'all that on a personal level, strictly personal level. So my email address is Shaquilla, and that is SHA. Miss Amber Kenny Lowe, she'll link it somewhere. Y'all will see it on something or whatever. But that's SHAQUILLA with a period and my last name Jones, JONES, the number 2, the number 0 at gmail.com. Nothing even fancy, y'all. I'm giving y'all personal access to me because if y'all try to message me at work, I may be like, who is this? But if I know y'all are from my beautiful line sister and you're a listener of that, please, again, do not hesitate. Do not hesitate to reach out to me on my personal email. I will also give you guys my direct work number, my direct work cell, if you guys want to shoot me a text message as well. And that is 919, area code 919-726-2463, y'all. I think that's right, but give me a second to verify that because did I say 6423?
Girl, I don't know.
I hope so, y'all. I'm gonna give it to you again though, just to make sure. 919 area code 726-6423. Don't even edit that out. Let people know that I'm real, okay? And I'm
I got you. So listen, Miss Quilla got y'all. So if you do have some questions, I really, really hope that you've reached out to her. And ain't no shame in our game, baby. Reach out for help when you need it. Please do not try to do this stuff on your own. But I love y'all tremendously. I want to thank Quilla, my beautiful line sister, one more time for coming on the Healed podcast. If you all are not following the Healed podcast on Instagram, the Healed with the T podcast, go ahead and hit that follow button and subscribe to our email list. Also subscribe to the YouTube channel, honey. Like, we trying to grow. But it's been such a pleasure this evening, y'all. Well, whenever you're listening to this podcast, you might be listening in the morning time. We never know. But I love y'all so much. Keep in mind, stay awesome and stay healing. Y'all got this.